And now, with all the very latest evening headlines, it's the ITV News.
Face masks return for the new year in secondary schools in England. It's as daily COVID infections hit another high ahead of the return to the classroom. Critics say they have concerns over children's mental health.
We don't have to wear masks in offices. So why are we requiring children to wear them all day in classrooms?
With Omicron spreading so quickly, the pressure on the NHS intensifies. One hospital trust warns patient care is at risk because so many staff are off sick. Also tonight. Senior Tories turn up the heat on the Prime Minister over rising energy bills. The aftermath of fires in the US state of Colorado. And Chelsea and Liverpool in a thrilling clash, but history is made in the stands.
This is ITV News with Lucrezia Millarini.
Good evening. Secondary school pupils in England were told today they'll need more than their books and pencil cases in lessons when the new term begins. Face coverings won't just be required in communal areas, they'll need to be worn in the classroom too. The controversial policy was announced as more than 137,000 new COVID cases were recorded in England and Wales. And with so many people sick or isolating, that's putting an enormous pressure on public services, crucially the NHS. Here's our political correspondent, Romilly Weeks.
At this vaccination centre in Bexley, some teenagers were spending the last weekend of the holidays getting another jab in their arms.
Second dose.
They're also having to get their heads round returning to mask wearing in lessons.
It makes things a lot more difficult in the classroom, but at the cost of safety, I think that's worth it.
Because I feel like there's more complaints if we're not allowed back at school, like if we have to learn at home.
I'm in favour of it because I put safety over everything else.
Unlike Scotland, Northern Ireland and Wales, pupils in secondary schools in England haven't had to wear masks all day in school since May. The government is promising it's only temporary.
Face coverings is very much a short-term measure, simply to the 26th of January when it will be reviewed, because we recognise that it is not something that many children will want to wear. It recognises the priority of ensuring face-to-face education.
With the UK recording its highest ever infection levels, the government is concerned about the impact of large numbers of teachers having to isolate. However, there is resistance from amongst its own side.
So you have to balance those minimal risks for children of COVID against, I think, are significant risks to children's well-being and mental health. And I just asked this key question. We don't have to wear masks in offices. So why are we requiring children to wear them all day in classrooms?
It's not just schools bracing for high absence levels. The NHS, care homes and transport companies are straining to cope. Some scientists believe the answer is to follow the US and reduce the length of isolation for those with COVID.
So would you be an advocate of shortening the isolation period again?
Oh, absolutely. I think we should reduce the isolation period to at most 5 days. And I think even if people are LFD positive after that, they should be able to return to work. I think that's what the few studies that have actually looked at the risk have found.
The government is saying there's no need for other restrictions yet, but with the NHS heading into its busiest week and no sector immune from staff shortages, it's still going to be a very challenging start to the year.
So, Romilly, with so many people ill with COVID, it's putting real strain on services now.
NHS bosses have been warning for some time that the NHS is working at its absolute limit, and the reality of what that actually means is illustrated tonight by this confirmation from United Lincolnshire Hospital Trust that they've declared a critical incident in their hospitals. An internal document leaked to the Sunday Times sets out in very stark terms the implications of that. It talks of extreme and unprecedented workforce shortages, meaning we're unable to maintain safe staffing levels, resulting in compromised care, and it singles out stroke and cardiac care as among the services affected. They say it's essential that they decrease the number of patients being admitted to their hospitals, and also are asking their staff to volunteer to work extra hours. With an exhausted workforce already at its limit, it's hard to see how that's a solution. Doctors I've spoken to tonight say many trusts are in a similar position, but the government is saying no new restrictions are necessary, although it's clear some parts of the NHS are buckling.
All right, Romilly, thank you. Well, the heat is on the Prime Minister tonight from some of his own senior MPs who want him to bring down surging energy bills. They want Boris Johnson to scrap taxes on bills, as Neil Connery reports.
Restaurant owner Ibrahim Dogas says his energy bills have more than doubled at a time when COVID has seen his turnover fall by more than 85%.
Now, energy bills are almost a breaking point for our trade because the turnover is still very low and the cost of running a business is constantly on rise.
Now a group of Conservative MPs and peers are calling on the Prime Minister to tackle rising energy prices.
Energy bills really are a major impact on people's cost of living, and for struggling families who had a very difficult time during COVID, it's going to have a huge impact on their lives if the bills go up, as has been suggested.
Household customers on the latest price cap are on average paying up to just under £1,300 a year on energy. The group of Tory MPs want to lower energy bills by scrapping VAT, which accounts for 5% of energy bills. And they want to remove environmental levies, which account for 15% of dual fuel bills. Together, it's estimated this would save these customers more than £250.
When we get to April and the price cap goes up, and it's going to go up a lot, we're going to see probably around 6 million households in fuel poverty. That's spending about 10% of their income just to be able to keep warm. We haven't seen those levels since the mid-1990s. That's unavoidable unless government steps in now.
The government says there are a range of measures to help those who feel the squeeze and that the economy is bouncing back. But with tax rises and inflation taking their toll in 2022, it seems there's no quick escape from the effects of the rising cost of living. Neil Connery, ITV News.
Investigators are still trying to find out what caused a massive fire in the state of Colorado, which scorched neighbourhoods to the ground. One of the 3 people feared dead has been found alive. 2 remain missing. We'll put more reports from the US.
First, there were devastating wildfires. And now a thick blanket of snow that has extinguished the threat, but made retrieving possessions and rebuilding even more challenging. This has been the most harrowing possible start to the new year for those living in communities north of Denver in Colorado, where Christmas festivities turn from a time of joy to one of ruin. William Klein returned to see the destruction of his home for the first time. Doubling over in dismay at the sight of a community razed to the ground.
I can buy new books, I can buy new furniture, but it's really hard to build back a community. I'm sad for my kids that they're going to lose all this. I'm sad for everybody else's kids.
He said he was confident of the culprit following a sustained drought, fire, and then this belated snowfall.
You know, I didn't think it would happen to me, but climate change could happen to you.
The wildfires had broken out 3 days ago, fueled by parched conditions and gusting winds of over 100 miles per hour. Hundreds of thousands had fled for their lives amid these chaotic scenes. The blanket of snow arrived just days too late. And now residents must start the new year pondering whether to rebuild or relocate. Robert Moore, ITV News, in the United States.
Football in this afternoon's thrilling Premier League tie between Chelsea and Liverpool will be remembered not just for what happened on the pitch, but off it as well. A dramatic first half saw 4 goals, but it ended without a winner. And it was the first top-flight match for nearly 30 years, with some fans allowed to stand legally throughout. Chris Scudder reports.
After decades of waiting, a victory for the fans. 33 years on from football's darkest day, when 96 Liverpool fans died in the Hillsborough disaster, standing was back in English football's top division. 28 years after it was banned in the wake of the Taylor report. Not that those in the official seating areas at Stamford Bridge were sitting down anyway. On the field, it was Chelsea's players who didn't have a leg to stand on.
That was another mistake here, and Mane's been short of goals, gets one.
And Liverpool's travelling support in seats and safe standing were all on their feet. Those on their seats were out of them again soon afterwards, thanks to Mo Salah, 2-0.
Acceleration, brilliant finish. Back at the bridge.
But such was the feast of football, it was hard to sit down at all. 2-1, spectacular.
Goes by the direct route. Like Kelleher. Oh, brilliant. From Mateo Kovacic.
And before Liverpool knew what had hit them, they were all square. It finished 2-2 and honours were even 2 on the safe standing debate.
Yeah, superb. I think it's fantastic. Yeah. It's got to be the way forward, 100%.
I don't know. I think it's a good idea to trial it, but I wouldn't say go gung-ho and go in all the way.
I don't think there should be extra standing. I think having had it banned for so long, I think the reasons for it being banned were very good, and I don't see why we can't just keep this all seated.
Everybody always stands there anyway, so if it's safe for everybody else, that's all that matters.
And the trials will keep on coming. Chris Scudder, ITV News.
And we end tonight with a tribute to our friend and ITV News colleague Gary Burgess, who has died of cancer at the age of 46. Gary passed away in his sleep at a hospice in Jersey yesterday.
It's 24 minutes past 8. This is the Wave Breakfast Show, Blackpool's biggest breakfast show.
His career spanned almost 3 decades, beginning in Blackpool at Radio Wave. He then moved into television and spent the last decade working with our colleagues at ITV Channel. Gary campaigned tirelessly to raise awareness about the illness, ME and money for cancer charities. He leaves behind a husband, Alan, who today thanked everyone who had cared for Gary. In a final message released after his death, Gary wrote, "It is time for me to hand over my microphone and keyboard for others to do the talking about me. So let my final words simply be thank you. Every person in my life has, in their own way, helped me live my best life." That'll do. And that is all from us this evening. So from everyone here, thank you for watching and good night.